Hello and welcome to the shop. Many of you might remember a video I did a couple of weeks back where I made my first attempt at turning between centers, and unfortunately it didn't turn out so well. I had an issue with the blank being thicker on one side and thinner on the other, which meant it wasn't properly aligned. I thought the problem was with my lathe. Many of you gave me wonderful tips on things I could check and work with on my lathe, and I was able to get the headstock and the tailstock, the dead center and the live center, the points to, it looks like they are meeting perfectly, as perfect as I think I can get them on this particular lathe. With that, I'm ready to take a second shot at turning between centers. I've got my bushings, I've got my lathe ready to go over here. We're going to take our time and we're going to attempt to turn between centers and see if we can have a success today. Keep your fingers crossed. We're going to do this together, and I hope we can make it work. Today we're going to try a little turning between centers, and what I have here are the basic components that you'll need to do that. We're going to start off with a dead center, and this is going to go in the headstock, and the dead center is what turns the turn between center bushings. So we'll slide that into our headstock. Then we need a live center. This is a 60-degree live center, and I'm going to put this in the tailstock. This one, you might notice, it looks a little weird. I initially purchased a No. 1 Morris taper 60-degree live center because I originally had a lathe that had a No. 1 Morris taper, and when I bought this lathe, I purchased one of these sleeves, these adapter sleeves, so that I didn't have to rebuy the center. So we're going to slide that in the tailstock. Now these little bushings here are the heart and soul of the turn between center process that we're going to use today. These are 1/4 inch shafts, and what we're going to do is I'm going to stick a bushing on each of them. This is a 7mm bushing. What I have here is just a blank I had extra. It is a slimline blank, and we're going to go ahead and turn it to slimline dimensions. That particular bushing there does not want to go on, so we're going to get another one. Much better. Now let's get this set up. One of the first things I want to do is make sure my headstock and tailstock match up, and it looks like they do. They're fairly well aligned. So I'm going to back that off a little bit. We're going to take our turn between center bushings. You'll notice they are conical on the inside of there, and that's so that they fit nicely onto the drive center as well as the live center. We're just going to slide one end into each end of our blank. I'm going to bring the tailstock up, and I'm going to make sure I've got a good solid fit on the headstock as well as the tailstock. We'll lock everything down. Looks like it's spinning pretty true. I don't have any vibration, so I think we're ready to turn. While turning between centers, we're going to treat the blank just like we would if we were on a mandrel. One thing that I do that is rather unorthodox is many times I'll use my roughing gouge and turn all the way down to the bushings. And I'll do that because I have a lot of control when I plant this in my hip, and with my sharpening system I can get a really nice edge on my tool. Many of you turn with carbide. Carbide would have no issue getting in here close. My issue is I'll bump this larger outside bushing if I'm not careful. I just have to be cognizant of that. If you were using a skew, there would be no issue. Here's my blank after being turned. Now I didn't do any sanding or anything, and watching the video, it appears that everything is spinning true, and with turn between centers, once you're locked in, it should be true. The blank turned out well, but I did notice something when I looked at it. I want you to take a look at this side of the blank. Notice that this upper section here is thinner than this lower section. Now on the back side, same thing, thicker, thinner. I'm still not 100% sure why I'm seeing this phenomenon. I'm going to go back. I've got the other half of this blank, and I'm going to attempt to turn a second blank to see if I can make some corrections or some adjustments to fix this issue. I've got the second blank chucked up, and I've brought the tailstock up, but I have not tightened it down yet. And I'm just checking to make sure that the headstock and the tailstock are seating nicely inside of the turn between center bushings. And as I rotate it, I see no gaps on either end. I'm going to go ahead and lock my tailstock down, and then I'm going to bring the tailstock up, just snug it up a little bit, and lock that down. As I look at the blank, I don't see anything unusual. I'm watching right here along the back of this bushing. There are no gaps as I spin this. It appears that my 60-degree live center is dead center of that turn between center bushing. I'm going to this side, and I can see no gaps. It appears that I am dead center. Now, my bushings do have some wear on them, but the wear should cause me to turn the blank down too thin, not to turn the blank thin on one side and thick on the other. So what I'm going to do, I've got my little skew. We're going to turn the lathe on at turning speed, which is about 3,000 RPMs. I don't feel any vibration here. You don't see the tool bouncing. No vibration here. There's a tiny bit of vibration there. That's probably because the bushings are old. A tiny bit there. We're relatively smooth there. Laying on this 60-degree live center, I'm feeling absolutely no vibration. But I see something. It looks as if it might be wobbling, and I don't exactly know why that would be happening. Let me rotate this a little bit. Watch the front blank. Let me zoom in. Watch the front blank when I turn the lathe off. No movement. Now watch the back blank. It appears there's a little wobble in that back blank. What I'm going to do is I'm going to flip this around and see if maybe this bushing, I see there's a gap between the bushing and the turn between center bushing. So let's get rid of that bushing altogether. Let's get it out of there. That's one thing I keep forgetting about, is this is not on a mandrel. I dug through the pile and found another bushing, and this one seems to fit a lot better against my turn between center bushing. So hopefully I can rule out bushings as part of my problem. Let me seat this on the headstock, bring the tailstock up, temporarily lock it down. What I'm doing is looking for any gaps here. No gaps there. Nothing there. All in all, it looks pretty good. Let me go ahead and tighten the tailstock up a little bit. I'm watching for a wobble. Looking better. Let's test. Much better. Hear the difference? All right. I feel pretty confident at this point that things are spinning as true as they can. Let me get everything adjusted back into camera range. Let's go ahead and get this blank off the lathe and see how it looks. Pull the front half off. It still looks like it's shallower on this side and thicker on this side. Hope you can see that. Take a look at the back half. And the back half is just the opposite. Shallow on this side, thick on this side. Even though my lathe appears to line up, and let me double check because I did not check that this second time. It appears that I have the alignment issue on my lathe taken care of, but for some reason I'm still getting oblong blanks or oval blanks. I would really like to thank you for joining me in the shop tonight for this little test. I'm still somewhat perplexed about these blanks and why I keep getting one side thicker than the other. I've done everything I can think of. I adjusted the nut on the bottom of the tailstock. You can see that I was able to bring the 2 points for the dead center and the live center literally touching one another. So I feel like they're probably as close as I'm ever going to get them on a Harbor Freight lathe. I tried looking for vibration with my skew. I made sure I thought I had a bad bushing, so I got rid of that. Brought up another bushing. I wasn't getting any vibration. There was no bounce from the tool. I'm at a bit of a loss. I don't understand why I'm having these issues, and I'm hoping with this video, one of you guys out there will see it, and maybe you'll see something I did. I had tight fits at my bushing and my turn between center bushings. I had tight fits at my live center, my dead center into the conical section at the back of the bushings. I really felt like I followed all of the instructions and all of the tips that you guys gave me, and I still don't see what I'm doing wrong, and I would really like to figure this out. So if you have any suggestions, please leave them in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you, and hopefully together we can figure this out. Thank you very much. I want you to know that you are always welcome in my shop. Come back and see me again real soon. And everybody, have a wonderful evening. Take care.